Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for giving up your Sunday morning to join us for this further session of our webinar series. Today's presentation, we have a good presentation by our head coach of our senior men, Mr. Max McLean. And just a couple of housekeeping rules. As always, please reserve your questions for the end of Max's presentation, unless he directs specific questions to you. And also, we'll try and get this wrapped up within the hour. I know a couple of the sessions have gone on longer, and there are issues with the data. So Max, if we can try and keep the presentation down to about 45 minutes and then 15 minutes questions and answers. And then guys, also when it comes to the questions, can we literally make them questions? And sometimes we tend to make a statement rather than ask a direct question. So let's keep it on the actual topic. All right, I think that's about it from my side. So over to Max.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. What we're going to talk about today is special situations and special situation training. So it's actually quite involved. So there's a lot that goes into it. So let's go for it. Jerry got the first one there, right? So like it says there, it says every situation on court during a period of play are special situations. So it's not like there is any specific special situation. They're all special situations. And your special situations actually involve your tactics. So again, they comprise of a combination of skills, tactics, countermeasures to enable a team to meet its ultimate objective. Now, you've actually got to think to yourself, what is the objective? Your objective is to outclass, outplay, outwit, and outscore your opposition. That's how you win your games. By being more tactful, skillful, physical, and psychologically prepared than the opposition. So if there's any gray areas there, but we'll go into it a bit further on, we'll discuss that a bit later on. The first thing I've got to ask everybody, and you don't have to answer this question, is what qualifies a coach to be a coach? And what is the difference between a coach and a teacher? And can you be both, or are you one or the other? You don't have to answer that question, just think about it. Jerry, can we flip on to the next one? Yeah. Firstly, the game of basketball, whether it be able-bodied or wheelchair, is a game of tactical, physical, and psychological warfare. And if you think about it, it is warfare. It's two great minds fighting against each other, trying to outwit, outplay, outscore the other. But anyway, let's carry on. It is broken down into two basic groups, which will be skills and tactics. What is skills? What are tactics? Jerry, can we flip over to skills if it's there? All right, your basic skills, people. And this, I'm going to ask you another question. You have coaches, which are junior school coaches, club coaches, provincial coaches, and national coaches. Which is the most important coach amongst that group? We'll answer that question a bit later on. Now, the high performance department this year is we're going back to basics. And the problem is we're finding out that our senior players and our more experienced players can only bounce with one hand, can only play on one side of the court, etc., 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 which makes you readable at the end of the day. So all our coaches, we're going to start going right back to basics. And that is how to bounce the ball, left hand and right hand. But as we go through these basic skills, it's not how you do it, it's what are you as coaches looking for to correct the mistakes in which these people are doing or making? So there it is. It's basically self-explanatory. It's how to catch a ball, left hand, right hand. And it's imperative that we use both hands, people. Otherwise, you are readable. You can only play on one side of the court if you're left-handed or right-handed. So you need to be unpredictable and don't let people read you, because they can easily shut you down in a game situation. So here we go again. It's how to pass the ball, chest, bounce, lob, and hook. How to understand classification awareness, target passing, how to push the chair, hand, head, body position. This is where you coaches have actually got to be aware of what's actually going on with your players. You need to be, our problem is we take our players and we put them on court and we say, let's do layups. First of all, do they know how to do a layup? And we're shouting and screaming at them and saying to them, well, you know, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. But if we don't teach them the basics and the fundamentals of how to do a layup, how do we expect them to do this? So there's a lot of things that we've got to coach, and it's all the basics. And these basics, well, first of all, we started with how to bounce the ball. But before we even get there, it's with our juniors and stuff, we've got to show them how to transfer from one chair into another chair. And that's important, because if they don't know how to transfer properly, they get bruising, they get pressure sores, and already a lot of our players this year are suffering with pressure sores and they are out. And, you know, this becomes a bit of a hiccup and a hassle at the end of the day, because you've got to treat this. And it becomes expensive, it becomes costly. The guys actually, eventually they'll fall out of the game, because sometimes it can take up to a year and a half if these pressure sores are really bad. But we've got to start right from the beginning and work our way up. So all this basic stuff is what we've got to be looking for. But when we're looking at this, you've got to be looking at how to correct the mistakes. Do you as coaches know what to look for? Now, I know Jerry's got a lot of slides and discs and videos and DVDs and whatever on this, and he'll obviously put them onto the links and direct you onto these links. But if there's any questions on this, please come back to us and ask us, okay? Because the definition of a coach, and some of our coaches, is not an ex-player that knows how to play the game and now has become a coach, or somebody that's been an ardent supporter and shouting the odds from the sideline. And a coach is not somebody that just sits there and barks orders. You've got to be able to read, react, counter. There's so much going on that for you to be a good coach, you need to be able to do all this. You need to be able to multitask. And remember, it's a mindset. So I think these basic skills, they are basic, and it's self-explanatory. So we will go into that, but please just bear all that in mind. Can we flip on to the next one? Once you've actually managed to polish, hone, and skill all the basics, the more advanced skills will come, but that comes with practice. And that's not something that'll be done at camps or at your practices. It's something that you'll do at home. It's i.e., you'll be able to do three-point shooting, tilting, sitting on one wheel, things of that nature. So after these basic skills are honed and polished to near perfection, and when I say near perfection, nobody's ever perfect at anything, but you must get to a point where you are comfortable and you are confident in what you are actually doing. And the only way you do this is by just keep repeating the drills, keep repeating the exercises, just keep repeating. And once you've done that, repeat it some more. So practice and training then, only then can an individual move on to advanced skills, such as three-point shooting, fadeaway shots, driving the key, seals, picks and rolls. That'll all fall into tactics. In summary, what you put in is what you get out. So guys, it's not something that you need to be on a court to do. It's something you can do at home. Your tilting you can do at home, spinning the ball on your finger, sitting in your chair. You don't even have to have a wheelchair. You could sit in just a normal chair. Those of you that remember Buntu Munyana, he never had a chair when he was at home. So he just sat in his, I think it was his kitchen chair, and he just played around with the ball, and he put a mark on the wall, and he just kept shooting at that, and he developed his focus. Okay, so it's basically self-explanatory, but it's what you put in is what you get out. So on the tactical side, you need to be tactical, physical, and psychological. And remember, this is a mindset. And for you to develop your tactics, there's three aspects of the game that you got to look at. It's obviously the defense, the offense, and transition. So your defense is defending your basket, the offense is attacking, and the transition is either going back into defense or back into offense. And how are you going to do it? Because with tactics, people are going to block you. They're going to play you a man-to-man, not let you get over the halfway line, run the 8-second clock, press you full court, press you half court, box you in, box you out. There's a lot of things which fall under tactics, but you need to polish the skills before you can work on your tactics. Because if you can't push a chair, you can't bounce a ball, you can't shoot, you can't do a layup or anything of that nature, how the hell can you do game plans? How can you do three-point shooting? How can you do a layup? How can you box somebody in, box somebody out? And it goes on and on and on. So there we have it on the tactics. So tactics, you need to, what are tactics? What are tactics? So the tactics is, well, first of all, what is your objective? Your objective is to score more baskets, outwit and outplay and outscore your opposition. That's the way you're going to win the game. Now, just to reiterate on what Scott Wallace said yesterday, there's a lot of things that you need to do. You need to put in the extra practices. You need to work hard at this. And your tactics will only follow if your skills are polished. So those guys that played in the South African national team and we played against Kenya, you could see that, yes, their skills weren't that great and we outplayed them and we beat them by 108 points to 15 or something of that nature. But then again, saying that, we took the same club from the UK because our skills and our tactics weren't to the same level as theirs. Now, everybody cries here that, oh, we can't get to a court and we can't do this and we can't do that. Guys, there's things that you can do at home that you do not need a court or a basket to help you with. Even if you just took a piece of paper and you wrap this thing up into a little ball and, I don't know, throw it between hand and round your back and fake a shot or whatever the case is, just get your actions right. But let's go back onto the tactics. So for tactics, what you need to do is you need to upset people. So you create havoc by upsetting their game plan. You're creating 2-on-1 situations. And when I say 2-on-1 situations on your tactics, it's a case of you're drawing out two players to one player. You say you've drawn out two guys off the key or out of the restricted area, and you've created a gap. What do we do with that gap? Why did we draw those people out? How did we draw them out? Where do we draw them out? When do we draw them out? Always just keep relating to that how, when, where, and why. I've got another one which I've put in there, which is the who, but we will get onto that a bit later on. So there it is. So we just got to understand the how, the when, the where, and why. Just remember that, because you're going to set up a game plan. How are you going to set it up? Who's going to be the ball carrier? When do you set this thing up? Is it on the left side, the right side? That's where the where comes in. Why are you setting it up? What is your objective of doing something like that? So just keep bearing that in mind. Remember, you're trying to outwit the opposition. So that's where all your tactical play will come into it. Can we go on to the next slide there, G? So this is where you come into your game plan. And your game plan is going to incorporate everything that you can actually think of that's going to upset the opposition's game. So there it is. First of all, you're going to create havoc by upsetting their game plan. Create a 1-on-2 situation by creating gaps in their defense. Like I said a little bit earlier on, it's your picks, it's your rolls, put somebody on a 3-point line to take shots. If he's a good 3-point shooter, one person can't jump him. They normally put 2 onto him. Straight away, you've got 2 out of the zone. So you're left with a 3 in. So you've got a 4-on-3 situation. There's your 2-on-1. You're also trying to create shooting opportunities for your guys. Pass the ball around the key until somebody's available, set a pick or whatever the case might be, pass it to that guy, the guy who's got the opportunity to take the shot. So you're setting up shooting angles, you're setting up positions for people to take the shots. But you're not only doing that, once you've taken the shot, what's the next thing? We need to pick up rebounds. So who's the rebounder? So remember, in your game plan, everybody needs to know exactly what their role and position is. Let's go for it again. Protect your player, the player who's in control of the ball, the dribbler, the shooter. You're always protecting the ball. If you've got to run with moving screens, you run with moving screens. If you've got to have static screens, it's static screens. But you're always protecting the guy with the ball or the person who's shooting, i.e. set up picks, set up screens, let them take their shots. If you need to, you play the game to suit yourself. You speed up the tempo, you slow it down, you speed it up. Whatever you do to upset their tempo. Play the clock. The biggest problem we do is we come down, we've got 24 seconds, we come down and we take the shot in 12. Sorry, somebody tried to come in there.
No, carry on, Max.
All right. So play the clock. Use it to your advantage. Coaches, you've got to be able to read and react on the spur of the moment. You have a timeout. You've only got a certain period. You've got to look at things and you've got to say, well, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to block this guy. I've got to block that guy out. I've got to run this guy down. I want to set up my move. You've got to read and react. If they're playing you on man-to-man, how do you break it? If it's a full court press, how do you break it? Half court press, how do you break it? They've just scored on you. They've scored a basket. You're putting in from the back line. They box you in. How do you break it? You've got to be able to read and react at the drop of a hat. Also, you've got to be able to follow instructions. If your guys can't follow instructions, you've lost the plot already. Whether the instructions are right or wrong, just follow them. Let the coaches deal with that later on. You've got to be able to analyze, identify and implement moves, plays, game plans to counter the opposition. That's in defense, offense, and transition. Remember, there's your 3 important aspects. It's offense, defense, and transition. So what is your game plan in defense? And what is your game plan in offense? And what is happening in transition? Are you going to shut them down, try run the clock? You've got to do it to your advantage always. But always understand the concept of how, when, where, why, and who. Who is going to initiate all this? Just remember those, all right? The how, the when, the where, and the why. We move on to the next one there, Chi. I like to compare basketball with a game of chess. Now, you've got 2 minutes in which to make a decision to counter and react to whatever your oppositional coach has done. Now, I don't know, G, did you manage to do that clip for me on
Yeah, it's the next slide.
on the chess game? Sorry?
It's the next slide.
Let's just show them that, and I'll come back to this one. Guys, watch this game of chess, and it's played by the clock. It's not a very long clip, but see how fast they got to move and how fast they got to think. Now remember, in a game of chess, they've got to protect the king. So the king basically, and this is how I've broken it down, and I relate every piece on the chessboard to a player on the basketball court. So here it is. My queen, I'd like to regard as my playmaker, my point guard, and my helper. She can move in any direction that she chooses, up and down the court as much as she wants to. My pawns are my low pointers, slowly but surely cutting away at the opponents by setting up picks, screens, blocking, and all the other fun stuff, getting in the way, harassing their fast players, just getting in the way, just upsetting their game plan, pissing them off, so to speak. My knights are my mid pointers, which help to set up the fast breaks, as well as setting up screens, putting shooters into shooting positions, shooting angles, and I like to call them my low post guards. The rooks and the bishops, obviously they've only got certain moves, they can only move in certain directions, but those are my high pointers, my key breakers, my shooters, my point guards. My king, he's the basket. I've got to protect him. So I need to protect him by all means. Otherwise, it's checkmate, game over. The king is also my ball carrier and the shooter. So I've got to protect my ball carrier. I don't want people coming in and harassing him, blocking him. It breaks down my move. It slows down the tempo. That ball's got to move. Flash, flash, quick, quick. But I don't want people harassing my king. So we've got to protect him at all times. Chess players are always having to think quick after a move and be able to read and react really fast. Now, guys, you need to try and put yourself in that situation where you can see what's going on court. You've got to be able to read that game. You've got to read it in split seconds, and you've got to counter. I've played games where it's been against the Lions, and their game plan was just to press, full court press, right throughout the whole game. And I decided to do something when I said, I want you to play their game against them. And I was coaching, I think it was Pumas at that time. And we played it against them, and all of a sudden they were lost. They didn't know what to do. They did not know what to do. So, and we won the game. And Pumas was lying fifth on the log, and we ended up going to the finals. Just because we would play their game against them. We did it against Eagles as well, when Quinton was coaching. But guys, you just got to think, and you got to think outside the box, always. And just remember, it's war out there. It's the war of the minds. You got two great coaches there, and you guys it's tactics, it's psychological. It's what do I do now? He's playing me a man-to-man. How do I break this man-to-man? Is there only one way to break the man-to-man? Is there two ways to break the man? You've got to think quickly on your feet. You've got no time for anything else but just to think how to break that. Okay, we've watched that. Right, here's your tactical plays. Okay, your tactical plays and it's basically self-explanatory. It's setting up screens, both static and moving. When I say moving, is if you look at the way we are playing this game right now, And this game has evolved. That's why a lot of these games are 1-on 3-point shots now. Not just everybody trying to break the key and do a layup or a 2-point shot. But try working on moving screens. So you've got your shooter coming down either left side or the right side of the court. Let him have a moving screen with him and start practicing shooting on the move. If you have to stop your chair the whole time to take the shot, you are, first of all, readable and you are predictable. So just try and put variations into your practices and into your shooting skills. Picks and rolls. Now, when we say picks and rolls, reverse picks, triple switches, seals, they've got to be done correctly. If the person that's doing the pick is not in the right position or facing the wrong way, you've lost the plot. Because if you look at how a pick is designed, is you're picking for somebody, he moves around the pick, they go towards him with the ball, and your pick moves into the key or whatever the case might be, or however you've designed it or however you want to train it. But if your pick is not facing the right way, just that split-second move, you've lost the plot. He doesn't get into the position to take the shots. So there it is. These are all basically self-explanatory. They're not basic explanatory, but this is the type of things that you're going to be doing to set up your game plans. So it's the man-to-man. Is it half court, full court press? How to break the man-to-man, mismatching, put your lows on your highs, put your mids on your highs, whatever the case is, so that you free up your shooters and your more stronger men to get in and break keys, to pick up rebounds, take the shots, get into shooting angle positions, etc., etc. We have played a lot of this, but we will discuss these things when we get onto camp and we start doing them on the practical side of it. But for today's session, just look at these, think about them. If you have to Google them, I know that, Jerry, you've also got some clips on this. Maybe we can just go into those at a later stage and you can see what's happening there. All right, when you're getting back into defense, what is it? Are you coming back into a teacup? What are you doing? Are you going to do a zone? Are you going to do a press, straight line? How are you going to do it? A man-to-man? Are you going to force them, box them in, box them out? There's just so much that falls under all these categories. And it's not just a case of, oh, this is how a triple switch works. It works in many different ways. Your three-point shooting, where is it? Is it only from one position? Everybody likes to come onto the three-point line. What about coming out another half a meter off the line? So when we start getting back to basics and it's the skills, you got to teach the guys how to shoot first, and then you got to find their range, and then you can see where they can shoot from. Now, a three-point shooter, if he wants to think very cleverly and smartly, don't shoot on the three-point line. Shoot maybe half a meter or a meter off the three-point line, which means that you draw the opposition out further towards you, which means that you create the gaps even better. That's just a few things on that. Can we switch over there, Jerry? Always keep this in mind. The who, the when, the where, and the how principles. Now, you're setting up game plans. Okay, so each and every player, even your staff, everybody on your management team, they need to know exactly every move that you've done, every gameplay, every side call, every code. Give your moves codes, give them names, do whatever you want to do. But remember, we're trying to create havoc with the other team. We don't want to be readable and we don't want to be predictable. So every combination that has been coached into your game plan, they need to know how and exactly what their roles, their responsibilities, their positions, irrespective of how large or small, without second guessing what their duties are. So if your low pointers, the duties of your low pointers is just to do picks, harass, get in the way of their fast players, whatever the case might be, that's his role. But never take away from the players that if they're in a position and they're open, give them the ball to take the shot. Because what have we done? We're trying to create shooting angles, gaps in the key where we can attack them and give people shooting positions and opportunities. So everybody needs to know their role. Who is doing the pick? Why are you picking on the left side? Why are you shooting from the right side? Why did you create the gap here? It's all these questions. Put yourself in the situation that you're going to set up a game plan. You know how it's going to work. You draw it out, but then put yourself in a situation that if you were the other coach, how would you shut it down? Now we get back to the chess game. You're setting up a game plan. The other coach wants to know how to shut it down. You know how to counter that. You've got to now know how to counter that. So how do you shut down his counter? I hope that makes sense to you, because it's this back and forward pulling on game plans. Never go into a game with only one game plan. Go in with 3, 4, 5 as a minimum. Let them try and flow into each other if possible. Later on, when we get into court, I will show you a 10-play game plan that just flows into each other. And it's not that you need to call it. If this one fails, it just automatically goes into the next game plan. And the whole thing we're doing here is trying to create confusion. We're trying to confuse the defense, pull them out of the restricted area, get somebody into the key, or set somebody up for a shot, put them on their shooting angles, put them in shooting positions. If that fails, we swing the ball around, we try it on the other side. Remember, game plan, game plan, game plan, game plan, and it's the who, when, where, how principle. Okay, so there it is. They need to know exactly where they are, who are the ball carriers, who initiates the calls, who sets the picks. We've discussed that, but just bear it all in mind and keep it there and write it down. Sit down with your players if you have to. Say to them, look, who's the better shooter? But again, be careful that you don't only have one shooter, because it's readable and predictable. That will shut him down. You need to have everybody on your team needs to be able to shoot, needs to be able to do a layup, needs to be able to harass, get in the way, kill the fast break, do whatever they have to do. So there's a lot of things that you need to work on: your speed, your strength, communication, things of that nature. Let's go on to the next one there, G. Now, we were talking earlier on about special situations. So what did we say? A special situation is any situation on court is a special situation. There's not just one special situation. There's many of them. You're doing a pick and a roll, a screen and a pick, a reverse pick, triple switch, whatever the case. Those are all special situations. Now, how do you get them to be perfected? You need to practice them, guys. You need to practice, practice, practice. And once you've practiced, practice some more. But put your people in pressure situations, i.e., you know you've got this combination of 5, put a very, very strong combination. Get outside players if you have to. Come here and make those 5 players all 4.5 pointers or 4 pointers, and put that play under pressure. Let them break it. And if it's broken, what do we do from there? How do we pick up the pieces? We need to pick up something, and we need to get into something else straight away. Otherwise, it's game over. If you only go into the game with one game plan, I think you've already lost the plot before you've even started. It's a case of here, the how determines where the player understands the game plan. Do classroom explanations. So on the boards, on your whiteboards, go through it. Let's walk it. Let's talk it. See if everybody if they understand it after you've explained it. Go onto court. Walk through it very slowly so everybody understands it. They pick it up. Not everybody thinks at the same pace as one another. Then from there, speed it up a little bit. Just run the game at a little bit of a speed, and until eventually you're at full tilt running this. But whatever game plans you do, put them under pressure situations. because that's what you're going to find in a game. Put them under a pressure situation. The what factor there is, what if the game plan is shut down? Exactly. What do I do next? It's read and react. Is your other game plan going to fall into another game plan? Are they just going to automatically fall into place, or have you got to call a timeout and explain it to them? Don't waste your time with that. Everybody needs to be on the same page. They've got to understand exactly what you're trying to get across. They need to know the moves. Every one of your players needs to know his role, his responsibility. Is he the shooter? Is he the picker? Is he the cutter? Is he the rebounder? They need to know exactly what they're going to do. You've taken the shot, you've missed the basket, somebody's picked up the rebound. Who is killing the fast break? How are you going to do it? Who's going to do it? When are you going to do it? It's things of that nature. Just keep bearing in mind the who, the when, the where, the how. And again, most importantly, put yourself in the opposition's shoes and react. It might not make sense to you, but eventually that once you've set up a game plan and you think, gee, this is a brilliant, brilliant game plan, put somebody in there, or even think about it yourself. If I'm now the opposition coach, how do I break this? Now, you've not only broken your own game plan, you've now got to think about how do you counter the other coach's plan on breaking your game plan. So this is where the psychology comes into it. You need to be thinking on different levels all the time, i.e. the same as the chess players. You know, you've got to make that move and you've got to hit the clock, and you don't have time. You've got to think on your feet, and you've got to think very, very quickly when doing it. Can we go to the next one there? So your game situation is, now I believe in this, guys. There's no wrong or right calls or moves. There's only consequences to the action and your choices. So nobody can really, I don't feel anybody can judge your calls. We're not God. We can't judge it. We might be able to assess what you do, but you put a good play into position and it works out for you. Great. You put a good play into position, it doesn't work out for you. So remember, there's only consequences to every call or move or action that you do. So think very, very wisely. Again, I'm always harping on this who, when, where, and how principle. It's important that you do that. Otherwise, you've got people running up and down court aimlessly. They don't know where their position is. He should have done a pick, but meanwhile, he's sitting back at the halfway line. There was a gap there, but he's on the wrong side. You overload the zone on one side where you shouldn't have done it. You should have balanced the key, your 5 players around the key, but now we've got 4 players sitting on the left-hand side of the key. You know, it's crazy stuff, guys. This is how we lose games. If you think about it and you practice it and you get your game plans into operation and you just keep practicing them, putting your game plans under pressure situations, see how it works. It fails here. How do we go into the next one? What happens? Who initiates it? Who does the call? Etc., etc. Now, I'm going to put you into a game situation here, and this is going to be your homework. Okay? We're in the final quarter. Team B has ball possession. So both teams are equally matched in height, in strength, speed, skill, and ability. Both coaches are highly experienced. They know what's going on. They know how to read the game. They know how to counter. Team A has 1 point lead with 24 seconds left on the clock. Team A has 2 timeouts, and Team B has no timeouts left. The ball bounces off Team B's chair and goes out of bounds. Team A, he calls a timeout and a substitution where he substitutes a high pointer. He's putting a high pointer on court who is very, very strong rebounder. He's aggressive, he's quick, and he also puts on a mid-pointer. The mid-pointer is one of the better shooters, or the best shooter on court, but has 4 fouls. The other 3 players on court still have the stamina and the skills to form a strong shooting combination. But before he did the timeout and the sub, the combination that was previously on court still had enough gas in the tank to carry on with that game and hold Team B or to a very good game. So now, Team A puts the ball in from the design spot on the sideline. I don't know if you guys want to write that down, or you can screenshot that. G, can we move over to the next? G, can we move over to the next? Right, here it is here. Here's the question for you. Why did Team A call for a sub? What is Team B's objective besides winning the game? What is Team B's possible plan of action? What countermeasures need to be implemented to react to the new combination? The why and how. How are you going to do this? Why do you want to do it? Again, who is going to do it? Where is it going to happen? How many different scenarios could be and can be played here? So you've now got to look at this as a coach and say, well, gee, he's called these subs. Why did he call it? We've got 24 seconds on the clock. Now, why has he called this? Why did he put that guy on? These other 5 guys were quite capable of running the rest of the game, and they were 1 point up. But he's now brought in this high point, and he's brought in this bloody shooter, or the shooter expert of theirs. So what do you think is going to happen there? How are you going to shut it down? What instructions are you going to give to your team to keep these buggers away from your basket, and that you need to be able to get the ball off them and still score? And I want you guys to describe what and how would you as team being coach read the situation, react to this, and how are you going to counter Team A's game plan? So there's your homework for the week. And I'm going to throw in another little sidewinder for you as well. I have Team A is a short team. Team B is quite a tall team. Question: what must Team A work on to be competitive against Team B? And what must Team B work on to shut down Team A? You guys good with this? I think I just scrambled all your brains and your minds there, but anyway, we'll carry on.
Yeah, Max, I'm good. I'm good with it.
Remember, there's no right
I'm
or
good
wrong answers. Sorry? We good there? How's the time there, Jerry?
Max, you're just about to finish.
I'm done. Thanks, guys.